4,000 years later.
We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to carve out some time to discuss what appears to be the most pressing issue facing the community around this new marathon game. In service of that end, I thought we would open with that goofy little bit. If that was too cringe, please let me know, but I think it brings a bit of levity to what appears to be pushing a lot of potential players away from this upcoming game. But before I delve a little bit deeper, I would like to remind everybody that I am biased. I am running a channel that utilizes this marathon universe for the entirety of its content currently. I obviously have an interest in promoting a positive sentiment around this game, and that may color my perspective on this issue. With that being said, I will do my best to try and look at this as objectively as I can to reach a fair conclusion as to how this rumor may reflect the upcoming gameplay. Let's start with this. Obviously, since the infamous IGN article detailing the shift from Christopher Barrett to Joe Ziegler as Marathon's director, there has been this uproar over the selectable cast of heroes quote in that article. This has been brought back to the forefront of discussion with the lackluster Sony State of Play showing, especially with the poor response received by Concord, Sony's new hero shooter. This obviously got a few people thinking about the recent news of hero shooter elements coming to Marathon, with credibility being given towards this idea by the nature of Joe Ziegler's previous work on the massive esport hero shooter, Valorant. This resurgence led to some big gaming channels talking about Marathon for the first time in a while. Paul Tassi, a Destiny YouTuber and Forbes writer, did a cool piece on some connections between Concord and Bungie. And Luke Stevens, a game reviewer and personality, I personally know him from his Ultimate Critiques series, which are these massive analysis videos for various games, did a video discussing the cast of heroes comments about Marathon. Luke's video is a little more pointed directly at the Marathon aspect, but both serve to outline the observation that if Marathon reveals itself as a hero shooter focused showing in their next announcement, that the response could be negative given the community's current sentiment towards it, and the responses that games like Concord have already received. I'll include links to their videos below for you all to watch, but my focus here is on the comment sections of these videos. Quote, "I'm so disappointed to hear Marathon shifted to a hero shooter, and Marathon was already going to be fighting an uphill battle, being an extraction shooter. Making it a hero shooter turned it into a 90-degree cliff. I haven't seen anyone excited about the game since the hero shooter rumor started. I really hope it's not true. And I've lost all interest in this game now. I'm tired of hero shooters." Or, Marathon as an extraction shooter already sounded lame, but making it a hero shooter is even worse, LMAO. I didn't think that was possible. The interesting thing to note here with all of these comments is that these are not Marathon-specific fans. These are general gaming fans who are looking at this as an upcoming AAA title, not the continuation of this decades-old series. What's alarming is that these comments aren't far off from what is generally being said in the small by comparison 10,000 person Marathon subreddit. A lot of people share this belief that if it were to move toward a hero shooter concept game, then they would not be interested in playing. So after months of this conversation around the hero shooter stuff, let's look at the primary source of information, the IGN article. The article, released on March 19th, isn't about a hero shooter rebrand, but rather the shift from Christopher Barrett to Joe Ziegler as game director. To start here, let's look at why this is such a big deal. On a surface level, generally major shifts in leadership during the development of a project are not indicative of positive things occurring behind the scenes. A project as large as a AAA game appears to benefit from a defined direction overseen by a consistent leadership team from inception to delivery of the final product. With that being said, it is not absolutely necessary that the game director is the same for the entirety of a project, and it's not abnormal to see individuals transition throughout the company at Bungie. The aversion to shifting away from Christopher Barrett's role as game director is probably due to the beloved nature of his work at Bungie. For context, listen to this section from his interview on the Fourth Curtain podcast from last August.
I'm intrigued or whatever. And then the last thing that happened was Jason called me on the phone, out of nowhere. It's like, hey, you want to talk? I was like, okay. And we just talked for like 2 hours on the phone. And I was just, I'd never really talked to him before. And so he was just, it was just a great conversation. He's obviously amazing. Like he's such a, creative talent. And he convinced me, he was like, okay, you should come to, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so then I made come to Bungie and made the plunge. And obviously it's been, 23 years of staying there. So it was the right decision. I think it's been an amazing career. And so
that's awesome.
He has been around at Bungie for a long time and been involved with a lot of what people love about the company. And his eye for engaging and visually stimulating art is top tier. The article also didn't include any mention as to what Barrett would be doing at Bungie now, which would obviously push some fans away if they liked his work and think that now he's out of a job or not working at the company. Luckily, we now have this information, and Christopher Barrett is operating as the executive creative director at Bungie. This would seemingly indicate that his creative vision is being valued even more than it was as game director, as his tastes and concepts are coloring everything that Bungie is developing. This makes me feel like we will not be losing the trippy and striking visuals featured thus far, but rather we as fans have someone at the top level of Bungie who is fighting for the preservation of this creative direction. Someone who appreciates the depth of the Marathon franchise as a whole. On top of this, we are getting someone, in Joe Ziegler, who has a massive amount of experience working on competitive, high-octane live service FPS games. The combination of these elements, that being the creative eye of Barrett, the respect for the rich narrative of Marathon, and the precision of Joe Ziegler, makes me incredibly excited for Marathon's direction. Now, let's address what really got the people stirred up, the namesake of this video, that being the hero shooter comments. The quote from the article reads exactly, "The game's direction has shifted somewhat under Ziegler's new leadership," one source says, including moving away from custom player characters in favor of a selectable cast of heroes. Hero shooters like Valorant or Overwatch are generally PvP games that replace what would traditionally be a class-type system with a pre-developed character or hero. Along with class-specific abilities like a tank or healer, the hero will also have a consistent visual appearance and sometimes their own backstory. So what about introducing heroes into Marathon contradicts what Bungie has said about Marathon thus far? Well, for that, let's take a look at what Bungie itself stated within the Vidoc.
Thon, you're a runner. A runner is a cybernetic mercenary.
They're this combination of fashion and sci-fi and cyberpunk. They're just so cool.
You're going to be able to both visually represent yourself in really interesting ways, but then also there's going to be gameplay modifications, which is going to be awesome. And it means that you and the other two people on your crew can pick your different play styles. I think the runners are going to be a really great way for our players to shape their gameplay.
So how can you visually represent yourself in cool ways if you are restricted to playing as some character that is already crafted by Bungie? This small line in the IGN article thus represents Bungie subverting our current expectations, as we had assumed that a level of customization that doesn't really exist within hero shooter type games would be in Marathon. Obviously, you are going to upset some people if it comes out that you are disrupting what you previously stated you would be offering within your product. This also can indicate to consumers that potentially other elements of the hero shooter might be present, like match types, level designs, and gameplay mechanics that aren't associated with the extraction shooter genre. And like we stated earlier, Ziegler's work on Valorant doesn't help to quell these fears for an audience that was hyped on an extraction shooter for almost a year prior to this news. But let's take a step back and think in totality, as Bungie has not confirmed anything regarding a cast of heroes, or really anything in the article except for Ziegler's position. Could a cast of heroes work canonically, given the information that we have available to us from the ARG? Well, let's start with this. How many people are actually going to be at Tau Ceti? Well, the UESC ship manifest for the Equanimity lists, quote, permanent accommodations for 150 persons plus crew. And Traxxas's purchase orders from Sakaguchi account for only a few thousand biomata. The Traxxas chat room also only ever referred directly to one group of runners being contracted for operations at Tau Ceti, the three-man group of White Rabbit, Brill, and Patch. And Maida is either catching rides secretly on board other vessels or launching smaller projects secretly towards Tau Ceti. So what does this have to do with heroes? Well, we are going to be playing as runners, occupying a vessel, the Biomata. So if you were to select a hero to play as, it wouldn't necessarily be the avatar you have running around, but rather the individual whose consciousness inhabits the Biomata. In this sense, your hero could operate as a class type that provides intangible skills specific to a certain playstyle. For example, White Rabbit as a hero could give a proficiency with sniper rifles and stealth, but not because you're playing in the body of, quote, White Rabbit, but because the character's backstory explains a skill point distribution that favors those mechanics. It would then follow that your biomata or vessel could still be customized as you see fit to account for your individual playstyle and visual preference. So what if these heroes are just a narrative tool utilized to tell a story with a larger amount of players than what canonically exists at Tau Ceti? By introducing a group of heroes, you would be able to select your class type and possibly your faction affiliation while retaining an in-universe consistency to the narrative. We also know, given everyone seeing the phenomenal ending in the final shape, that Bungie thrives in writing compelling characters that are beloved by fans, and carrying their plot thread through a complex and lengthy narrative. Would this really be so bad in Marathon? I don't think so, and this perspective could explain why Bungie hasn't felt the need to come and speak on a shift towards a hero shooter style game, because it's not. Marathon is an extraction shooter that has characters which engage in a narrative. Or at least that's what it appears to be, given the trailer, the ARG, and the Vidoc from last year. I personally feel like the hero concept itself is kinda counterintuitive to everything that they have set up so far with the biomata technology themselves. I mean, if they really are heroes in the sense that we're thinking of when we look at other hero shooter games, then what would be the difference between a hero in this game and just having a suit of armor? I mean, the biomata itself is not an individual, but rather a tool that's implemented and designed to accomplish a mercenary's task. I also can't help but be reminded of the experience I recently had in Hunt Showdown when I played that again for a video on this channel. In that game, you get your player character from a marketplace where all of the characters are already named and have a specific look and come with tools. Now, obviously, you can customize later on, and if that character survives, you can give them different items, but that's about as close as I could see an extraction shooter getting to this hero shooter selectable cast of heroes element, and despite it all, it works pretty well over there. The quote in this IGN article could ultimately be some sort of game of telephone that's gone astray, or it could be something that's true that's misrepresenting or characterizing the development of the project as something that's not accurate to what's truly occurring. Or maybe Bungie is about to come out and announce that it's entirely a hero shooter now. No matter what, I think that based on everything we've seen so far, Bungie is doing a great job of building out the narrative of the original Marathon series and visually creating something that seems striking and interesting to play. I guess my current perspective is this. Let's let them cook. And I don't think that we should be turning off on a whole game because an IGN article about something entirely different had a throwaway sentence in there that hasn't even been confirmed by the developer. Ultimately, the gameplay reveal trailer will let us know how things are going to be. And based off last year's Vidoc, that's the next thing that we're going to get from Bungie about Marathon. But until then, I don't think that as a community we should be bogged down by the potential path Bungie is taking based on this one sentence that could in reality mean a multitude of different things. Bungie has already shown an amazing visual goal and a thoughtfully crafted narrative in relation to this new game. And like I said, they just knocked their DLC for their other live service game out of the park. Let's have some faith, let them cook, and get excited for what is to come out of the Marathon universe. I'll see you later. Bye.